It's weird. Just gonna put that out there right now. Elizabeth Edwards, aged 49, and her two daughters, Kim, aged 14, and Katie, aged 13, were all reported missing. This was just suspicious because this just didn't happen. Friends and family and neighbors were trying to get hold of all three of them. They were phoning their phones, no answer. They arrived at the house, were knocking, banging on the door, and like everybody else, no one was answering the door. They could just hear the dog barking inside the house. So they decided to break down the door. So when they entered the house, the first thing that they came across was two teenagers, which was Kim, one of the daughters that was missing, and her boyfriend, Lucas Markham. They came across them just in the living room, actually cuddled up on a mattress. They were just watching TV, seemingly completely oblivious to what was going on. I mean, people had been banging on this door for like 2 days. They were phoning. And it was just like they were in a completely like in their own little world. So the police had obviously found the one daughter, but they were like, okay, so where's your sister? Where's your mom? And Kim, the daughter that they found in the living room, very coldly, very matter-of-fact tone, just looked at the police and just said, upstairs. One word, that's it, upstairs. So the police were like, are they okay? What's wrong? Is there something wrong with them? Like, what's going on? To which Lucas, the boyfriend, responded to the police in the same kind of cold, matter-of-fact tone to the police. Why don't you go upstairs and see? So the police went upstairs. They entered the bedroom of the mother, Elizabeth, first, and what they found was a horrific scene. It was a complete bloodbath. So fearing the worst because they just found the mother, Elizabeth, they entered the next bedroom, which was the bedroom of Kim and Katie. They shared a bedroom, these sisters, and they feared the worst at this point. They didn't know what kind of situation they were going to find Katie in. And unfortunately, they did also find Katie dead in her own bed. They pulled back the quilt. So immediately on the scene, the police arrested both Kim and Lucas on suspicion of murder. So let's take a little look at Kim Edwards and Lucas Markham. So they were both 14 at the time that this incident happened. Now, Kim Edwards also had quite a troubled upbringing. She didn't really have a relationship with her dad either. He was quite a violent addict and he left when she was 2 years old. So she was just raised by her mom, and they had quite a turbulent relationship. And there was a particular incident when Kim was 6 years old. The mother, Elizabeth, lost her temper, and just in like that split second rage, she hit Kim in the jaw. But because of this incident, Kim and Katie, the two daughters, were taken into foster care for around 6 months. And this just really traumatized Kim. She never really forgave her mom for this. She just had a lot of resentment towards her mom, and it just seemed to all lead back to that one incident. They were also bullied in school, which just further drove them closer together, and they really bonded on the fact that they pretty much hated the world, they hated school, they hated their family. They just felt like they had no one else but each other. Now, the mother, Elizabeth, was not happy with this relationship at all. She felt like Lucas was not a very good influence on her daughter, which, as you can imagine, didn't exactly do wonders for the relationship of Elizabeth and Kim. It just further drove them apart. And then Lucas randomly said, "We should kill your mom." Now, that's not normal, Lucas, okay? He said it in like a half jokey way. He did mean it, but he said it in like that jokey way. You know, when you say something to somebody and you don't know how they're going to take it, so you kind of say it in a jokey way. Well, that's exactly what Lucas did. And he was actually taken aback because Kim said, okay. Yeah, you can't make this up. So the original plan was for Lucas to get 4 knives from his aunt's house, walk the short distance to Kim's house, hop over the fence, somehow climb up and knock on the bathroom window, which was on the 2nd floor, and Kim was going to let him in and they were going to commit the murders. The original plan was for Lucas to kill the mother, Elizabeth, and for Kim to kill her sister, Katie. So Monday, the 11th of April rolls around. This was the day that they'd planned to carry out the murders. So Lucas followed through with the plan. He got the knives, walked the short distance, knocked on the bathroom window, and Kim didn't answer. Kim had fallen asleep. You fell asleep? Kim had fallen asleep. Okay, so the plan was called off. they couldn't do it. Tuesday, the 12th of April rolls around. Lucas gets the knives again. He walks that short distance, hops the fence, knocks onto the window, and no one answers. Kim, you guessed it, had fallen asleep again. Now, this says one of two things to me. So yeah, it either tells me she's really cold and detached and just doesn't care at all, or she wasn't really asleep and she was just having second thoughts and she didn't let Lucas in. So then Wednesday, the 13th of April comes around, and unfortunately this was the day that Kim and Lucas carried out the murders. So as we know from the original plan, Lucas was the one that was going to kill Elizabeth, and it was decided that he was going to go first. So he crept into Elizabeth's bedroom, and that's when he brutally murdered Elizabeth. Now, during this attack, Kim was just still in the bathroom. She was waiting for Lucas, but she could hear noises coming from her mother's room. So she went into the room because she was concerned about Lucas. Yeah, she was concerned about her boyfriend, not her mom. So now it was Kim's turn to murder her sister Katie, but she couldn't go through with it. She told Lucas that she did not have the mental strength to carry out the murder, so they decided that Lucas would do it instead. Both of these brutal murders were carried out on Wednesday, the 13th of April, and they were carried out really late at night. Elizabeth and Katie were asleep at the start of their attack, but police, if you remember, didn't break into the house until Friday, the 15th of April, a total of 36 hours after the murders. Let alone are they the youngest double murderers in the UK. But what they did after the murders in those 36 hours is somehow even more shocking. So the first thing they did after the attacks is they took a bath together because they wanted to wash off all of the blood. The police found blood sprayed everywhere. I mean, this was a bloodbath. Blood got everywhere. They had a bath to wash off all the blood, and their reasoning behind this was because they didn't want the dog to smell the blood on them. Yeah, remember there's a dog in the house at the time. God. So after they had a bath, they decided that they wanted to take the mattress from Kim's room. They wanted to take Kim's mattress and put it downstairs. And I've said this a couple of times now, purposely, but do you remember Kim and Katie share a room? Kim and Lucas went into the shared bedroom of the two sisters to get Kim's mattress while Katie was lying there in her bed. How can they be in that room while the sister Katie is there dead in her own bed? There's no words. So once they had moved the mattress downstairs, it was like they were in their own little bubble. They created this almost just completely different world for themselves. So obviously they had the mattress downstairs, and then they ate lots of ice cream. They also drank some alcohol, and they engaged in sexual activity. And then they watched the Twilight films. Hence the name, The Twilight Killers. They watched 4 out of the 5 Twilight films, and I feel like that's not really very important that they only watched 4, but why only 4? What happened to the 5th one? I just feel like it can't be a coincidence that they watched the Twilight films. I mean, it may have just been one of their favourite films, that series, but I can't help but think, did they almost see themselves in Edward and Bella? Does no one else almost see the similarities a little bit in their relationships? Edward and Bella were in a very all-consuming relationship. One could say it was a little bit toxic as well. Yes, Edward was technically not aggressive. However, he was a vampire, you know? Lucas was very aggressive. So did Kim almost see like that kind of aggressive protector in Lucas? Maybe, because obviously Edward would kill for Bella. He would do anything for Bella. And did Kim almost see that in Lucas and in her relationship? They had also planned to commit suicide. I don't know if they planned to commit suicide before the murders or it was just something that they discussed after the murders, but a suicide note was found. So yeah, that's what they were doing for 36 hours. It's like they just created like a childlike situation of the sleepover setting downstairs, and upstairs there was this horrific crime scene. And I also just want to point out that there was only one bathroom in the house, which was upstairs, which was next door to Elizabeth's bedroom. I just don't know how they were able to use the bathroom upstairs next to, I don't know, I can't. Let alone the fact that they carried out the murders, just the ghosts and stuff like that. I couldn't, okay? I couldn't. When the police were interviewing Kim and Lucas, Kim was very willing to talk. Like, she didn't hold back at all. Lucas was a little bit more reserved because he wanted to protect Kim, so he didn't really say much to begin with. Kim gave 2 reasons as to why she had murdered her mom and her sister. So the first reason she gave was jealousy. She was just really jealous of her mom and her sister's relationship. She just felt like her mom favored her sister. But the other reason as to why Kim decided to murder her mom and her sister was that she didn't want her mom to worry about her anymore, because leading up to the murders, Kim had been self-harming and she didn't want her mom to worry about her anymore. She didn't want her mom to wake up every morning and wonder if her daughter had committed suicide. And then the reasoning that she gave for killing her sister was that she didn't want her sister to deal with the loss of her mom. And Lucas said that his motive was to protect Kim, to do whatever it took to protect Kim. Neither one of them showed any remorse for either one of the murders. They were so cold. Kim did show a little tiny bit of remorse about killing her sister. She felt a little bit sad about that, but overall, just so cold, both of them. And Lucas actually said that he was quite calm and happy when he was committing the murders, because he knew he was doing the right thing by Kim. After their confessions, they were both charged with 2 counts of murder. Lucas did plead guilty to this, but Kim thought that that was a little bit too harsh for her because she hadn't actually carried out the murders with her own hands. So she wanted that charge lowered to manslaughter with diminished responsibility. However, psychiatrists analysed Kim and found that she was completely sound of mind, so she could not use the defence of diminished responsibility, and was ultimately found guilty of 2 counts of murder. Now, in the UK, you are criminally, always struggle to say that word. You are criminally liable from the age of 10. So Kim and Lucas were sentenced like any other adult. They were both sentenced to 20 years in prison. However, on appeal, this was lowered to 17.5 years. So they are both still in prison. Obviously, the murders only happened around 4.5 years ago. And if they complete their full term in prison, they will be released when they are 32 years old, which sounds crazy to me. They are being released when they are 32, which is still so incredibly young, which just shows they were 14 when they did this. I think it's easy to forget that. Crazy to think that anyone would be capable of doing something like this, but 2 14-year-olds. So yeah, that is the story of the Twilight Killers.